So I'm reminding everybody how to use this app. We've got it all called up on the TI-84 or the one on the iPad, either one. And if you're at home and you're like, I don't have a TI-84, go into my yellow folder after you log into single sign-on. And then there's another yellow folder inside that. If you click on the thing that says begin and enter, you get to this calculator. It says TI-84 on top. This is where you put your months. Did I not tell you it's pretty much always going to be months? Then this is supposed to be 12 and 12 because it's 12 payments per year and 12 compoundings per year. Everybody get that fixed to 12 and 12 at the bottom. Interest or investment rate. There's a difference, but they're going to go in the same spot. Interest is what you pay a bank. Investment is where you're earning the money because it's your money and your money's growing. Okay? So I's for interest. Remind me to mark you back to present. Do you have a pass or?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right, so this is where you put either interest or investment. PV stands for present value. That means presently, how much is it? So like, if you're saving money, maybe you don't have any money right now, then the present value will be 0. If you just made a loan of $100 from a friend, then that's what happened. They gave you 100. FV is the future value on all loans. It's 0. For loans, it equals 0. Because in the future, you want your loan to be gone. You want to pay it off. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story now. And you put the numbers in the right spots. One last pro tip. Don't ever use the minus sign. There's a place for using a negative sign. The payments, where is the payments again? I got to squeeze that in under this. There it is. PMT. Sorry, I forgot one. That's your payments. Your payments will often be negative. Not always. Almost always. And the negative key you use is the one by the decimal point at the bottom of your calculator, not the one on the side. Otherwise, it'll just error. And it happened to kids last hour. It's like, error. Why is it erroring? Using the wrong negative sign. Okay? All right. Why are payments negative? Because they come out of your checking account every month. And that's a bad thing. It hurts to see it go out. Now, sometimes it's going into an account of yours that's an investment. But payments are negative because they come out of your pile of money, your checking account. Okay. So here's my story. And I'm going to now pair you with a partner to see if you can solve this question. These two rows slide over right next to each other. Hold on, I want you to stand up. These two rows. You guys slide ways wait just a minute so she can get back in there. All right. So it's going to have you slide this way. No, wait, it's wrong. Get up and go over here.
Present value, payment, value.
Okay, here's my story. Both of you guys slide next to each other. Okay, here's the story, and I want you to work together and make sure you got the right answer for it. You're borrowing, this is you. You need money. You borrow from your dad $1,000 because you want to do this really cool thing. And he says, fine, I want you to make payments over 2 years. We'll make monthly payments. But he wants 20% interest, which honestly isn't as bad as your credit card, which would have been 26%. Plus, your dad probably won't beat you up if you're late on a payment. Here's that stats right here. $1,000 over 2 years. You're making monthly payments to pay him back at 20% interest, which I know seems like a lot, but I'm telling you, credit cards are way worse. All right, would you please then? You might be like, but you never told us the payments. That's the point. You can alpha solve when your cursor is on the payments. All right, check with the kid next to you and see if you get the same thing. Told you. You guys get the same thing? Okay, good. What did you get?
-50.8.
Negative what?
Negative 50.90.
50.9. All right. Present value is the loan, $1,000 presently. You're going to pay it back later on payments, and it turns out to be about $50. Your dad's making some percentage, 20%, and frankly, that is a little high for a dad to be loaning you money at, but it's better than the credit card. And if you put 2 here, it's a really common mistake, and it, of course, wouldn't give you that payment. You got to go 2 times 12 because you want this in months. And your calculator will do the 2 times 12 for you. All right. Next one. You realize your dad realizes after he thinks about it, he's like, okay, fine, I don't want to be that mean. 20% is a little too much. I'm only going to charge you 8% interest. Now let's figure out what the payments will be. 8% interest. Now, on a Google Google Sheets, where it's like a spreadsheet, if you change this, the other number would automatically change. But this doesn't. How do you get this number to change? You go put your cursor on there and do alpha solve. All right. Pierce, what'd you guys get? Point what? 23. Raise your hand if you had the same thing. Okay, I think you're on top of this. Now, these are going to get more complicated because you don't always solve for the payment. You can solve for other things. You can put the alpha solve anywhere. So this time, I'm going to say, go back and put a 0 in everywhere. 0, 0, 0, 0, and that's just like, gets it fresh, except for the 12s because it is going to be monthly. Okay, so, clean slate. This time, try to do it without your partner and then just compare at the end. Here's the situation. You're going to save $300 a month, and you're going to put it in there into the stock market where you're hoping to get 9%. 9% invested in the stock market. Presently, you have no money. So this is a plan of the future. You're going to put in $300 a month, monthly. You're hoping to get 9% interest, which is like investment income. And here's the question. I want to know how long till you have $2 million. Hint, in the future, you want to have $2 million. And if you're like, you never told me the end. I know, that's the point. You can solve for the end. For the kids at home, I'll reiterate the numbers here one more time. We are putting $300 a month. I'm not going to put the numbers in the right spot for you. Don't forget payments are negative because they're coming out of your checking account. If you didn't use a negative payment, you messed something up. We're going to get 9% in the stock market. That is about the average. It's going to be monthly. And in the future, you're going to have $2 million. That means you're not only a millionaire, you would be a multi-millionaire. Now, I hate to say it, but a million isn't the same thing. Back in the day, my dad's generation, it was a bit about being a millionaire. And now, it's still pretty cool to be a millionaire. But honestly, it's not enough to be, quote, rich in the sense of being able to do anything you want, go anywhere, buy anything. You might think it is. It goes so fast. If you even just want to buy a nice house, your payments, like to be able to pay off that house and stuff, $1 million won't be $1 million in the future because it'll be like $50 for a cheeseburger. So $1 million, you probably is going to become, you're not going to hear as much about people being a millionaire as being a multimillionaire, which is $2 million. Because like if the prices of everything are twice as much, then to be a millionaire, you have to be $2 million. You get what I mean by that? All right, so you should have put the $2 million where? In the future value. The payment should have been the $300. The present, you don't have any money at the start. It was 0 for PV. Your interest was 9%, and you alpha solved here. And now I want you to take that, because it's months and nobody really understands months. Divide it by 12. Use your calculator. It's a calculator after all. Take your months, divide by 12. Yes?
When I clicked alpha solve for like finding how many months times number, it kept saying that it's an error.
Okay, so when it says error, first of all, is the cursor that you have blinking right there on the end? Okay, good. That's the first mistake people make sometimes. The second thing is, did you have your payment number with a negative, and did you use the negative that's by the decimal sign?
No.
Okay, there's the problem. If you use the wrong minus sign, it'll bite you. Okay, now I guess I didn't do this exact problem in last hour, so I'm not sure. Okay, but Steincross, do you remember what you got for months?
43
It was not 43 months.
It was like 526.
Oh.
526 months. Can you verify that, anybody? Yes, a lot of people are saying 526 was right. And then did you divide by 12?
Yeah.
And what did you get for years?
43.85.
All right. And would you agree that rounds to about 44 years? Now, you can't argue with this. If you get 9% and you do it for 44 years and you put in $300 a month, you will have $2 million. It's just a fact. You can do that. The sucky part is doing it for 44 years. Everybody wants to be a multimillionaire like now. Okay, but the problem is that is pretty much impossible. In fact, we can do that. We can figure out how much would you have to save to be a multimillionaire. Well, right now, you'd have to save up all of it. You'd have to have $2 million, and that's impossible. But what if you say, I don't want it to be 44 years. Maybe you make your goal like, I want to do it in 30 years. Change the problem and change it to 30 years. Then something's going to have to change. I'm going to say, you want to change this and solve for how much a month would you have to do to make it 30 years. So I changed your N, you resolve for your payment. Change your N to 30 times 12. Resolve your payment. All right, so to be extra crystal clear, does your N now say 30 times 12, which I think is what is 30 times 12? 360, thank you. Your N should say 360, your interest is still 9, your present value, you still have nothing right now. You still want $2 million in the FV, so then the only thing left is your payment. So, Steincross, what'd you guys get?
Negative 1,002.
1022? Thank you. Did you guys?
1092.
Oh, 1092?
Yep.
All right. And you guys verify that? Okay, good. That means about $1,000 a month. Now, I know some of you are like, well, that's impossible. Well, then you can't have the money by 30 years from now. But what some people might do is they might say, well, I can't save $1,000 a month at first, but I could save, maybe $500 a month at first, and then I'll slowly move it up, and by the end, I'll be putting in more than 1,000, so that I could still make my goal. Because do you get when you first start, you don't have as much money, and then later, when you're like really hitting it in your career, maybe you could bump it to 1,000 a month, and then maybe you get the really big promotion and stuff. You could be putting in 2,000 a month, and you could still make it to your goal. So my point is, this is forever 1,000 a month, and that might be really hard to do. But maybe you start less than that and you end more than that. Okay. All right. So here's another one that's very real. A lot of you will buy a car at some point. Now I'm going to say something kind of crazy. Some of you will never buy a car, because if you live in a city, you can use Uber. And you're going to realize buying a car is freaking expensive, especially all of the stuff like buying for the insurance. I just was looking at buying new tires. It's going to cost me $1,500 just to get new tires on my car. And that'd be for a lot of Ubers just for my tires. So my point is cars are expensive. Some of you will never buy one. But I think a lot of you would like to buy one. So let's talk about what the payments are like on it. So go back and zero everything out. You have to put something in. Put a 0 for everything, except for the months, because this will be a monthly. And now, I want to do a new situation for a car. The key to the project that you're about to do is to pick a normal thing. If you do something really bizarre, it's really hard to do on your calculator. But if you pick a normal job, for instance, and then you pick a normal car, you'll actually be able to afford it. It's the people will lose a bunch of points on the project where they go, I'm going to make $1 million a year as my first starting job. Because this is a starting job project. Okay, so no, you can't just say, I'm going to make $1 million in your starting job. Let's say you're going to be a surgeon. Guess what you are before you're a surgeon?
A resident?
You're a doctor, yes. And the doctor goes into residency, yes. So a starting doctor salary, that's like $100,000 a year. And then you can be a surgeon someday, sure. And maybe you'll make $2 million a year someday. But you're starting, it's a starting project, okay? All right, and if you're gonna start in the NBA even, if you're really that good, I'd probably know about it. But let's say that you're gonna start in the NBA, you can look up starting NBA salary. They don't all start at $2 million a year. You can look it up. So that's what you'll do is you Google the amount. So then buy a reasonable car. If you want to buy a cool car, buy a used car, and they're way cheaper. They're like half as expensive to have a 2-year-old car. And you can't even tell sometimes that the person really took nice care of it. It looks like a new car. It's just like half the price. Okay, so don't buy too expensive of a car. The project will make you lose points because it's over your limit on how much you make. You're limited by, you can only, like if you're a nurse, you can't buy a Lamborghini. It's too expensive. It's not realistic. Someday maybe you will, but this is at the start of your career. All right, so here's my salary. I'm going to say, you don't have to type this anywhere. I'm going to make $60,000 a year as a starting salary as a nurse. And when I divide that by 12, this is part of the project. You'll do the same kind of a thing. When I divide that by 12, that's $5,000 a month. It works out really nice. So I make $5,000 a month as a nurse. Can I spend $5,000 a month on a car? No, because you need other things besides a car. Unless you're going to live in your car and your car is going to feed you. All right? You have only some percent of that you can spend. So we made that. We looked it up. And according to the official financial people, they say you can spend 15% of that times 0.15 on your car. That comes out to $750. That's the max payment I can afford. And that's kind of cool to know. If you're going to be a nurse, then $750 a month is the most that you can spend. Now, if you're going to be a doctor, fine. Let's say your starting career as a doctor, you might find that it's $120,000 and then everything be doubled. So then you can afford $1,500. But you still can't afford a Lamborghini. All right, so let's actually use this scenario and see, can a nurse whose max car payment is $750, can the nurse afford to borrow $45,000 to buy a really nice new Toyota RAV4? You don't put that in the calculator, of course. It's a RAV4 hybrid. She really loves it. And the interest rate is going to be 8.7%. You can put these in now. And it's going to be a 6-year loan. And by the way, if the 6-year loan didn't work, like one of the options in the real world is to get a 7-year loan. And then the payments are a little cheaper because you stretch them out over 7 years instead of 6 years. That right there is enough, and you should be able to tell the payments. And then you can tell, can the nurse actually afford it? All right, work with the kid next to you, see what the payments are, and can the nurse afford it?
It's $478 a month.
Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Are you able to put a down payment on a car?
Down payment on a car. Yes, but in this scenario, we're just borrowing the whole amount to keep
Okay.
it simple. You are absolutely right, and these can get so
What do I do
complicated.
now?
If you put a down payment on the car, and then what about your credit rating, and then that could affect your interest rate, and then, like, there's so many things in the real world. But here, we're just borrowing all the money. So, did you guys figure out that the nurse could afford it?
No.
Oh, okay. So tell me what the N was that you used.
We use 72, which is 6 times 12.
6 years times 12 does come out to 72. Good. And then the interest rate you used?
8.7.
All right. And that's not something you can pick. The car, sorry, not the car company, the financing company would tell you that. And I'm telling you, in this case, 8.7. Okay. Present value?
45,000.
Yep. That's what's happening right at the beginning is you're borrowing 45 grand to get this car. And now payment? You probably alpha solved to get this, right?
Yeah. It was $804 coming out of the bank.
All right. Now, let me show you why in the real world, sometimes if they want to sell a bunch of cars, they'll go special 2.9% financing. Actually, I saw one that was 0% financing. So we're going to go with something kind of more reasonable. 1% financing. We're offering a special on our RAV4s. Come in today. If you've got good credit, we'll give you 1% financing. And now the nurse who was like, oh, it was my dream car, but I can't afford it. Maybe now she can. Change it to 1% and recalculate your payment and... Photo, what'd you guys get?
Negative 644
Negative 644 point... Go to the penny.
Actually, you can do 20.
0.20? Thank you very much. Did anybody get the same thing? Awesome. Can the nurse afford it now?
Yeah.
Sweet. You see how that could actually happen in the real world? The interest rate was this, and then all of a sudden they run a special, and the interest rate goes down, and the payment gets way better. Yes?
Can the interest rate go up after that?
No, once you, well, I shouldn't say that. There are loans where the interest rate can go up, but you should never do them because that's vicious. All of a sudden, your payment could go from the 650 to the 850, and it's like, I can't afford it now. So you should always use fixed interest, and that's what it'll be in the project. Yes?
I do have a question. For your credit score, like, what would happen if you had like a really good credit score, like somewhere out there?
If you have a really good credit score, it will make your interest rate better, but it won't go to like 1.
Yeah.
Usually what it does is like, it was 9% for an average person, and you get 8%. And even that is, you know, a good thing, but it doesn't cut it dramatically like when they say, and I've seen 0% financing. That is sometimes a thing, and it's a huge difference on your payments. Okay, so I think you got the idea here, and now it's time to actually do your first little bit of research for the project. Don't agonize over this, but pick a job that you might be interested in. Maybe I want to be a blank. Now, for some people, this is like a really, really hard thing. If you're really struggling with something, just pick a job that you know exists. Like, I know somebody who is a nurse. Okay, I'll look into that. Because maybe if you don't even want to be it, maybe you can picture, you know somebody who's a nurse. And then when you Google it, take a second right now and Google starting salary of a nurse in Minnesota. It doesn't have to be a nurse, of course, but whatever your thing is, please look it up right now. Take a second, Google it. Yes?
Could I do like my job in the car that I'm paying for right now?
I get what you're saying, and yes, you can do a normal job like I'm working at Wendy's. I don't know what your job is. I don't need to know, but yes, it can be any job, but it has to be a starting salary. And since you're pretty young, it probably is a starting salary. You know what I'm saying?
Like hourly?
Well, there
Yeah,
is no salary.
but you have to change it to, if you want to know how to do that annual salary, take whatever you make per hour and times it by 2,000. That'll give you an annual salary. So if you make $20 an hour, you times it by 2,000, it'd be 40,000 a year. Okay? So take your hourly, times it by 2,000. Because there's typically 2,000 work hours in a year. But again, one more normal way to do this, she's trying to do something special, and I'm fine with that. But more normal way to do this is, you want to be maybe you want to be a teacher. What's starting salary teacher? Most kids in high school are like, I will never be a teacher. And then some of you will actually decide, it's actually not that bad of a job. They get the summer off. They get to talk about things they're passionate about. That's kind of true. All right. But look up a job. Got a number? All right. Then you've got the beginning of your project. Next thing is, write that down, and take a screenshot of the thing that told you that, so that you can prove to me that you didn't just make up a number, like, you just made up a number for a nurse of 280,000 a year to start with. I'll be like, there's no nurses that make 280 grand starting salary. Screenshot it, I'll give you proof. Now you're gonna look up a car. And like I showed you, sometimes a nurse can't afford their dream car on their first job. But it was because of the financing, she got a great deal. Well, look up a car, and if it's too expensive, go 2 years old. I'm telling you, a 2-year-old car looks like a new car, and it'll be like half the price. And that'll make sure you don't go over your cap. So get yourself like a 2000 or 2020 or 2022, whatever your dream car is, but make it older, because it'll make it way cheaper. Yes.
If it gives you like a range for a starting salary,
Then
do
you have to take the low end of the range,
Okay.
because that's your start. You're brand new. And everybody thinks they're gonna get more than what the averages are, but you probably are. At the beginning, you'll get a low starting salary. Yes.
Is there any good like website that's
You might find out they're starting 100.
I would just Google, literally Google 2022 RAV4 used, or whatever, and you'll see an amount.
I know, I'm gonna start like a little tiny girl in
You
her.
wanna go to cars.com?
Oh, yeah,
My friend, her and her brother's all from 2008 rap.
What's you?
I use the RAV4 because that's my daughter's dream car. I mean, other than like a Lamborghini, but you know, kind of like a realistic dream car. Did you take one and pass them back? I mean, like to your side and then back?
ripped it out. Yeah, but it's not like I'm actually gonna buy it. It's sitting on a lot waiting. Yeah, okay, we have my 2021 Ford Bronco, $21,000. Okay,
First thing, I strongly recommend pencil, because unless you're a genius, at some point, you're gonna screw something up. You wanna do this in pencil. I have pencils up in the front. Just reloaded my cup up there. Plenty of pencils. Okay, remember that job, that starting job you were gonna say? Write it down at number 1.
No, but he's gonna be killing
It can be as simple as lawyer. It can be as simple as nurse. It doesn't, you don't have to be super specific here. One way you can get burned is using an unrealistic salary. So again, Google it, screenshot it as proof. You can always show me later. See, it said right here that the starting salary for a grave digger was 80,000.
gonna be like negative. So, because you have to invest into companies.
Yes.
You have to start with a plus that number. So I'm not gonna like business owner negative $200,000 salary.
Well, that's true. The dentist might be able to do it.
Starting annual salary for entry-level position.
I love it.
No, that's the good one.
Makes sense. But just make sure you're specific about it. Right.
I want to start.
This is what I would do. I get
Are you taking advantage of this? Are you gonna take that girl side? I heard like reviews about it. I took over business and it has mixed like I love it so much. Like I can't imagine going back to high school after college. Like it's I like it so much better. I'm getting bit in the next one. I'm doing the
Yes.
so like I forgot. I'm
that's
not
why I
gonna
was like, I think math. I know I have to take
Then in your dream world, you would finish this weekend, so
and
that
I've been hurt all
you don't have to.
So I
So
don't know how
that
that's
you
gonna
don't have to
work,
worry about it
but
while you're operating. But
Well, I'm leaving Sunday morning.
what is your monthly?
And I'm
all right, for the rest of the hour, all we did was worked on this packet. The packet will be posted, and you're going to have a bunch of days to work on it. I'll give another video on a different day that tells you a little more details about the project. And that's all I got for the video for today.